Members of the Fourth Estate, can you hear me? Babu? What's the issue? Are you okay? What's the problem? Are you need to move a bit? You do not remind just sound. Yeah. Oh, you can't hear? Oh. Are you okay now? No? Silipe ile ya kawaida kama hii machine. Are you okay now? Huh? Because distorted. Leave the mic one. Give me my normal thing. Huh?
Yeah. To move away from the camera. Move a little bit this way. Ambassador. Yeah.
Hapo ni sawa sasa? Sasa tuko sawa sawa? Haya. Haya, asanteni wenzangu. A fellow cabinet secretary, Your Excellency Ahmed Gunter, Ambassador of the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The world is currently undergoing an unprecedented health, socio-cultural, and economic crisis occasioned by the current pandemic COVID-19 disease. Before this outbreak, we have seen the turmoil caused by Ebola virus disease in the Democratic Republic of Congo and the West African region at large over the last few years. These emerging and re-emerging infections remind us of the persistent threat they pose to our national, regional, and international public health settings. In this regard, it is imperative to scale up adequate and efficient preventive measures in order to contain and avert these disease threats. As we do so, as we safeguard the health of our people in the East African region, we are proactively looking to enhance our capacity in mitigating these health challenges through strengthening of disease surveillance and response systems. A key pillar in this strategy is strengthening of laboratory network across the region. The Federal Republic of Germany, through the German Development Bank, has already supported the establishment of a regional network of public health reference laboratories for communicable diseases. These labs will therefore strengthen each partner state's capacity in this area. To achieve all this, the East African Secretariat has overseen the procurement of mobile lab units, training of laboratory experts to operationalize these units, and are scheduled to cascade knowledge transfer in order to build a critical mass of scientists across the country. In the last month, we have seen a rise in COVID-19 cases detected among truck drivers at various border points. We recognize the truck drivers and their counterparts in the transport industry for their continued support to ensure that we have adequate supplies of food, of medicine, across the East African countries. They have endured long journeys and waiting times at border points as each country tries to be vigilant in their containment measures against the COVID-19 disease. And for this, we are grateful to our truck drivers, and we apologize and regret the inconveniences they continue to experience, because when they experience these inconveniences, it also means their families suffer in the process. And for this, we apologize, but regret to say that these are necessary measures. And therefore, to address these challenges, the country has put in measures to ensure that the truck drivers are tested on time and prior to their journey and receive a repeat test each 14 days. The mobile labs are equipped with modern PCR and ELISA machines that are able to diagnose most pathogens causing communicable diseases such as Ebola and COVID-19. I am aware that they have a combined capacity to support some 2,000 tests per day and couldn't have come at a better time to complement our existing laboratory network. We plan that one lab will be stationed in Namanga, where, as you know, there is a problem, at the Kenya-Tanzanian border, and the other at Naivasha, which is now our dry port. In addition, we are also receiving mobile lab accessories, consumables, PPE, ICT, things like laptops, satellite phones, and electrical system. So we are gathered here today to receive these mobile labs, testing reagents, consumables, and other accessories. I want to take this opportunity to thank the people and the government of the Federal Republic of Germany through the German Development Bank for availing finances for the project, the Bernard Nocht Institute of Tropical Medicine for their technical assistance, the Ministry of East African Community for coordinating, and the East African Secretariat, who have worked tirelessly to ensure that the EAC Secretariat, who have worked so much and over lengthy hours to make this happen. I want to take this opportunity also to thank the German Embassy in Nairobi for their continued support, not only of this particular project, their support for the East African cooperation, their support for us in various sectors of our economy, and we hope and trust that this is something that will continue in years to come. So at this juncture, before I proceed on, I want to invite my colleague, CS Mohammed, to come and make a few remarks before we receive the laboratories from the German Embassy. Karibu ndugu yangu.
Thank you very much, CS Kagwe, the Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany, colleagues who are here with us. I'm also happy to introduce members of the East African Legislative Assembly, the Kenya chapter, represented here by Honorable Abdikadir, Honorable Wanjiku, Honorable Noor, and I think Honorable Fatma is also here. These are people who represent Kenya's agenda in the Legislative Assembly in Arusha. Our being here today, as you've heard from the Minister for Health, is really to receive 2 mobile laboratories to enable us to deal with the current crisis. Our ability to succeed in dealing with this pandemic is dependent on how all of us as East African Community member states work together. Given the nature of our porous borders, as the saying goes, we can only be as strong as the weakest link. And therefore, it is in our interest collectively to work together as EAC member states to make sure that the testing of all our citizens, be they those residents in our respective countries, or those that are mobile through truck driving, are getting sufficient level of testing so that we can deal with this crisis in a big way. would like to thank the German government for the support of giving us, as East African Community member states, 9 mobile laboratories, and out of those, 2 of those mobile labs have actually come to Kenya, and it's what we will be receiving here today. I think we have all seen the challenges at border points, and this is as a result of our inability to do testing on site at the destination where these truck drivers are crossing the borders. And so the challenges that we have seen in Namanga borders, others like Malaba and others, hopefully would be dealt with, sufficiently through the deployment of these mobile laboratories. And I also want to thank other supporters, Trademark East Africa in particular, who have been instrumental in building the commerce infrastructure along our borders within East Africa. And we really want to say that all of us, whether we are drivers of trucks who would be benefiting from this through the tests, the health professionals who are administering this, and all colleagues who are at the front line. This morning I was told of a very close colleague that I know of who is at one of the border points who have been serving us very well, has had, to be tested positive. And when you see people that get tested positive, it just tells you how many of our own people are sacrificing themselves to be in the front line to support and build our country and safeguard the interest of the larger community in our country. So without further ado, it is now, I guess, ask the German ambassador to make some remarks before we are going to very humbly receive the mobile labs that the German government has so kindly donated. Ambassador.
I'm not sure. You can hear me through the mask. Dear CS Health, CS EAC, both PSs present, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, Germany stands with Kenya in this global fight against COVID-19. We will continue our cooperation with our Kenyan partners and friends in these difficult times. I applaud on behalf of the German government the quick and clear measures that the Kenyan government has taken to slow down the spread of our common enemy. Today I have the honor to assist in handing over 2 COVID-19 mobile testing labs, which are provided through German support by the East African community to Kenya. This cooperation will reinforce Kenya's testing capacities, as the PS said, and as you know, testing is key to flatten the curve. COVID is a crisis that tests our humanity in the way we treat each other. COVID is also a test for governments everywhere. I'm sure of one thing: we can only beat the pandemic if we work together. Our humanity matters, our international cooperation, multilateralism matters. These mobile labs are an example of multilateral approach. Kenya is receiving these testing laboratories from the EAC. Allow me to highlight some areas of German solidarity with Kenya in combating the virus. The East African community and Germany have in recent years expanded their cooperation in the area of pandemic preparedness. Part of this German support, financed through KfW, is the supply of mobile laboratories to all 6 member states. 2 of those mobile testing laboratories to Kenya, which you see here on the site, and they consist of, as you can see, cars and lots of testing materials and whatever is needed for such a mobile laboratory. They will enable our Kenyan partners to detect communicable diseases on the ground and react accordingly. The timing of today's handover is pertinent with the corona pandemic, and it's spreading also in Kenya. The procurement of these mobile labs is complemented by a training program, as it was also mentioned, that is done through the renowned Bernhard Nocht Institute of Tropical Medicine in Hamburg. Laboratory staff from Kenya has gone through extensive training both in Germany and in Kenya. Germany also supports the training of all airport staff in Nairobi and Mombasa on how to operate airports under the impact of COVID-19. This training program, which is also done through the EAC, will start next week. Furthermore, I assisted earlier this week in the unveiling of another project to increase testing in Kenya. The new cooperation between the Ministry of Health and the International Livestock Research Institute, ILRI, through German support, ILRI will now offer an additional capacity of 800 tests per day in Kenya. I sincerely hope that Kenya will overcome COVID-19 crisis with as little lives lost, as little economic damage done, and as little people's lives severely affected by the crisis. Let me send my condolences to all Kenyans who have lost their dear ones due to the crisis so far. To conclude, I would also like to emphasize that the German government stands firmly on the side of the Kenyan people to overcome this crisis and will contribute to tackling the negative impacts in Kenya in the future, as well as we have done in the past. Thank you very much for your attention, and it's my pleasure to be part of the handing over of the 2 mobile test laboratories to the government of Kenya, represented through 2 CSs here present. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barozi. Asante sana. Before we do the physical handover, I once again want to thank my colleague, C.A. Zedan Mohammed, and the Ambassador Annette Gunter, for your kind words as we continue to fight this pandemic. As the coincidence would have it, on this day, when we get this fantastic gift, we also announce 2 things. Number 1 is that the number of cases today actually was the highest since the pandemic began, at 66 persons, with 64 of those being Kenyans, and 2 of them and 2 others being foreign nationals. We have also continued to see the rise across the counties, and therefore, arising from this situation, and in order to contain further spread of the virus, the National Emergency Response Committee on Coronavirus announces and directs as follows. A is an extension of the cessation of movement in and out of Eastleigh in Nairobi until Saturday, the 6th of June, 2020. B, an extension of the cessation of movement in and out of Old Town, Mombasa until the 6th of June, 2020. In addition to that, the malls, the eateries, restaurants are supposed to remain closed and hawking prohibited until Saturday, the 6th of June, 2020. This, ladies and gentlemen, is essentially to keep the areas you contained, so that in the next few days we can finally bring some form of control towards those areas, so that the disease does not continue spreading. And of course, you will have noted then that if we have 66 cases, the other unfortunate milestone is that we have now hit, Kenya has now hit a figure of over 1,000 positive cases to 1,029 cases. Mombasa continues to be the challenge, with 30 of those cases being in Mombasa and 26 of those cases being in Nairobi. Kajiado, because of the issues that have been there with the truck drivers, again, we have recorded 3 persons in Kajiado. So the Mombasa, as I said, that's why we have had to do the extension, but also the areas that are concerned continuously now would be Rikoni as well as Shangamwe. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you once again. Today is a busy day because of all the things that are happening in this presser, but I want you to bear with us because we need to get all these things done at the same time. We will extend further comments on these matters in tomorrow's presser. I thank you. So I want us to do the physical presentation, and then we can take a few questions if there are any. Shall we?
Maybe one or two questions.
Right.
And we possibly just want to hear from...
Shentai, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me. My name is Chemutai, going from Citizen TV, and we wanted to find out, there seems to be some contradiction over the outcome of some of the tests. For instance, 19 drivers had tested positive in Kenya, Tanzanian drivers. When they went to be retested in Tanzania, they apparently tested negative. Is there an issue? Because even the Tanzanian government is actually accusing the Kenyan government of trying to hurt its economy, especially on tourism, by reporting these results. Just what is the position? Is there a standard testing procedure? What is the issue between Kenya and Tanzania?
Yes, I'll ask Dr. Amos to respond to the issue of our testing methods, of how we are testing in relation to how the World Health Organization has advised in terms of testing. You have all heard, even on CNN and other institutions, regarding the challenges of the testing kits that have been used in many parts of the world, including Europe and the United States. But I'm going to ask Amos to respond to that issue. Yes.
One of the political leaders lost a kin, and in the manner which they were buried suggested that they could have died of corona. And knowing what they do, knowing their career, what they used to do for a living, or rather, could it be that they pose a threat to the people who they came into contact with, and majority of the people who they came into contact with being members of parliament?
Helen, we can't hear you.
Wow.
You can come closer as long as you are about 1.5 meters.
Sorry. Helen Aura again from NTV. My question is, one of the political leaders in the country lost a kin today. One of the political leaders in the country lost a kin, and the burial was held today. The manner in which the burial was held suggested that the person could have died of corona. And we want to find out, knowing what the person did for a living, could this pose a threat to the people who they came into contact with, some of them being members of parliament?
You know, the standard procedure in contact tracing is that it is assumed that if you have been close to a person who has tested positive or died of the disease, then it is presumed that you are a contact and you could have been exposed to the virus. And therefore, in terms of our containment, if you have been exposed, particularly closely exposed, you must be tested and you must also be quarantined. So we cannot respond to that question until we have done the contact tracing and indeed certified that what you are saying is correct, that they could have died of COVID-19. One last one.
Stigma pia inaenea hivyo, na labda ni kwa sababu ya vile ambavyo watu wanazikwa haswa mashinani. Labda unaweza elezea watu kule mashinani sababu ya kuzikana vile ambavyo tunazikana. Alafu la mwisho, Bwana Waziri, tumesema njia moja ya kupigana na ugonjwa ni usafi, lakini hapa Nairobi haswa katika mitaa ya kule mashariki hakuna maji. Hapo vipi, Bwana Waziri?
Asante sana. Hebu niseme hivi, ya kwanza hiyo mambo ya kuona mtu ambaye ako na virusi ama amepata virusi ama amewekwa quarantine, unamuona kama si mtu mzuri, yani stigmatization, hiyo ni kitu mbaya sana. Na ni hofu kwangu kusikia hivyo, kwa sababu mimi nimesema na nitarudia tena, hakuna mtu hapa na hakuna mtu Kenya hii yetu na ulimwengu wote kwa ujumla ambaye hawezi kupata hii virusi. Na hiyo tumeeleza, wewe mwenyewe unaweza pata, mimi naweza pata. Kwa hivyo hakuna haja ya kufanya hivyo unasema. Kwa hivyo mimi ningeomba wananchi wote kwa ujumla, tafadhalini, mtu ukijua mtu amepata virusi, mtu wako quarantine ama mambo kama, kazi yetu ni kuwaombea. Na tunasema neema ya Mungu iwe nasi na iwe na yeye, kwa sababu hakuna kitu wewe umefanya ya maana sana ambayo umezuia wewe upate, ama yule mtu ako na makosa makubwa sana ndio sababu alipata virusi. Kwa hivyo tafadhalini jameni, sisi ni Wakristo, ni Waislamu, tunaomba Mungu zote. Kwa hivyo ikiwa mtu unaona mtu akifanya hivyo, wewe mweleze wewe mwenyewe. Mweleze hata wewe unaweza pata hii virusi. Ya pili, jibu ingine ya Waweru vile unauliza ni kusema ya kwamba wale ambao wamepata hii virusi, ambao wameambukizwa na hii virusi, sio kusema ati wote ni wagonjwa. Ni vile tu wako positive, lakini sio kusema ati ni mgonjwa. Hata tunashukuru Mungu kwa sababu katika Kenya wale wote ambao wako positive, wale ambao wako na hii virusi, hatuna mtu hata mmoja ambayo kusema kweli ni mgonjwa kabisa. Yaani hatuna mtu ambaye yuko na ventilator, hatuna mtu ambaye tunapatia oxygen. Ni vile tu ni lazima akae mbali kidogo ndio aziubukize wengine. Lakini hiyo ndiyo hali ile iko katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Na I'm going to ask Dr. Amos to respond to that question from Chemtai regarding the testing differences between, not just between us and our neighbors, but across the world.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary, Health Cabinet Secretary Adan Mohammed, Your Excellency Ambassador. Our testing method is based on the WHO approved gold standard, which is called real-time PCR, or real-time polymerase chain reaction, which basically involves collecting a specimen from the junction of your nose and throat, and also from your throat. Based on this, we are able to extract the actual viral particle, which we then grow in the laboratory, and based on that, we plot curves to see whether you have the virus or not. This is what is now currently approved by the World Health Organization. And this is what we have deployed in our 20 labs that are testing both in the public and private health facilities, including these two resources that we are receiving today. They'll also use a real-time polymerase chain reaction. However, we have also received kits, rapid kits from vendors. And as a ministry, we have subjected these kits to validation. And for a particular kit that we did a validation, where the real-time PCR was showing positive test, in all the 8 cases, this particular kit was showing a negative. And I explained to you a few weeks ago that the rapid kits are based on antibodies, which are specific proteins that the body produces in response to an infection, like COVID-19. One of the challenges with this antibody-based test is that the proteins sometimes are produced much later after 14 days. So if you test somebody before the proteins are produced, he or she could be COVID positive, but because the protein, specific protein you are looking for has not been produced, the test will come out as negative. That is what we call a false negative. The second pitfall of these rapid kits is that they are not specific, they don't have a high specificity. We have a large group of coronaviruses, including one that causes the common cold. So you could just be having common cold caused by coronaviruses, but this particular test could label you as COVID-19 positive. So that is a false positive. The first one was a false negative. Number 3 is that not everybody produces sufficient quantities of antibodies that can be measured in the sample from blood or from plasma. This applies to those who are immunosuppressed, those who have serious illnesses, those who have malnutrition, or those who have infections like HIV or TB. They may not produce significant quantities of antibodies, and therefore, again, that you will be tested, it will tell you you don't have the COVID-19, but it's because that particular antibody has not been released. So these are the pitfalls of the rapid test, and therefore, if somebody is using them, comparing to the gold standard, then you'll have that variance. But allow me also to add on the issue of the barriers, where we have developed standards and guidelines. We have done capacity building for all the teams in the 47 counties, and we have also shared these guidelines with our counties. And our guidelines take cognizance of our cultural practices, so the barriers, as much as possible, must also take care of our cultural practices. And we will continue to support the counties to be able to undertake this activity. Thank you.
Just one final one regarding the issue of the water in the estates, Wawero. You know, because it is, ironically, the reason why there is a shortage of water, and Madam Cecily Kariuki has explained this, is because of the floods. And what is happening is in a lot of areas, a couple of things are happening. One is that the pipes themselves have been swept out, have been swept away in certain areas. 2 is that the intakes themselves have also been swept away. 3 is that there is clogging of pipes because of mud that has been that is within the pipes as a result of the flooding that is currently going on. But I do know that no effort is being spared in ensuring that the situation comes back to normal. I thank you all very much. Asanteni.